Hey guys, Late Boy Scout here with my front sight post log. I'm going to give you just a few closing thoughts about front sight, about my experience there, and what you're going to experience when you go there. And I encourage you to do so. I think they're probably, well, they claim to be the best firearms training center in the United States and possibly the world. I think they have a right to that claim. Their facilities are probably unmatched, and their training is top-notch. So, here's just a few closing thoughts about front sight in no particular order, just some of the things that I wrote down about my experience there and about what firearms enthusiasts might expect and then have happen differently. So, just a few notes here. One thing, very important, front sight is not a place to check out other people's guns and gear. You're not going to spend your time examining and showing off your gun and looking at other people's guns. You're not going to have time for that. All that kind of social stuff, checking out other people's guns, no way. It doesn't happen. Your guns actually stay in your holster, no magazine in the gun, and clear the entire time you're there. There's no other option. If your magazine is in your gun, you're in big trouble if you're walking around that way. Otherwise, your range instructor has to tell you it's time to get loaded up. Otherwise, you stay unloaded the entire time you're there. There's also just not a lot of time to shoot the breeze with other people. There's a little bit during lunches, sometimes when a certain, half the class is going off to do one thing and you guys get to move back a little bit and focus on some dry fire drills or whatever. You get to know people a little bit, but for the most part, there's really not a lot of time to shoot the breeze. You're just going the whole time. Front sight can be completely overwhelming for new shooters, and possibly too much information to effectively take in the first time. It's more than a week of information, probably 2 weeks or more of information packed into just 4 days. I mean, you are seriously just go the whole time. There's no rest, there's no breaks. You got to get the information into your head the first time and then practice it later on in the hotel room, because it's not a lot of time to, repeat things and ask tons of questions. There's just not a ton of time for that. The instructors actually recommend coming back for a repeat course, to repeat the exact same course, and in a minute I'll tell you why that's a good reason. Actually, I'll just tell you that now. Most of the people in my class did not graduate. There was only 3 in a class of 30 plus that actually graduated from their course. The rest of us got certificates of completion, of achievement, and that's it. That's it. So if you want to actually get a graduation certificate for your course, you're going to have to come back. You're going to have to go home and work on all those skills and then come back and take it all over again. However, in general, for new shooters, I suggest learning a lot about your gun, how to shoot it, how to handle it, how to manipulate it safely, and how to be somewhat accurate with it. Learn that first before you come down to front sight, because if you are just getting introduced to this gun and suddenly you're thrown into this situation where you're being trained with all this stuff, you're going to have a really hard time keeping up, okay? And there were some people in our class that had a very hard time keeping up because they didn't know their gun at all, hardly understood the controls, and just had a really hard time keeping up with the rest of the class. Of course, you need to learn all about safety, about safe gun handling, before you come down there. They will reiterate all of that, of course, but if it's not drilled into your head and completely ingrained first, that's going to be bad news, okay? So learn safe gun handling before you ever come down. I noticed that if you spend too much time shooting with your friends, and this kind of applies to me, practicing stuff you heard about and techniques that somebody else showed you or said that somebody showed them, this can end up being a bad thing when you come down to front sight. Because, well, for instance, I heard about the Mozambique Drill, 2 to the body and 1 to the head, right? and I've used that in different shooting scenarios that I've set up in little running guns and things like that. While that may have some validity in certain applications, perhaps military applications, it's not appropriate for civilian defensive shooting, and you do not ever want to stop an opponent that way. 1, 2, 3. You don't want to do that. Okay, that's not appropriate, and in many cases not legal. So what you will want to learn instead, and what front sight will teach you, is 2 to the body, and then scan, assess your assailant, then scan your surroundings, and then if this turns into be a failure to stop, whereas in which situation your assailant is still getting up after 2 to the body, 2 to the thoracic cavity, then 1 to the ocular cavity to put their lights out is appropriate at that point. Otherwise, no, not at all. And I realized that when I was on the line and actually had a little malfunction with my Glock 19. And it was the weirdest thing. My sort of old habits took over. My things that I had been doing took over. And so as I was trying to clear that malfunction and fighting to get it cleared, as soon as I got back on target, I knew I had more shots to take. So what did I do? 2 to the body, 1 to the head. The instructor came over and said, "Was that a Mozambique?" And they all kind of gently scolded me, saying, "We do not do that here. That'll get you thrown in jail. Don't do that." So that's a good point to make, is that some habits that you develop shooting other drills and doing other drills and developing other skills could set you back when you come here under pressure. Now, that's not to say that other training isn't okay. It's just that you need to do your best to, I guess, put that out of your head and remember only what front sight is teaching you. Training at front sight is just the beginning. You need to take all of those skills home and practice, practice, practice. In my case, definitely so. There's plenty more practice to be done, because obviously I didn't get a graduation certificate, so I've got a lot of practice left to do. But I know the skills now. I know what I need to do. So I need to spend the time and actually practice all of that, try to master it before I ever go down again. Don't expect that when you leave front sight, you're going to be done with all the training you need to get. You're not done. You need to take all that home and practice, practice, practice. This is the last thing I'm going to tell you for now. I might roll in some more comments later on about my experience there, but for now, this is going to be the last one. I realized that the way I came dressed down there was actually pretty appropriate. And how did I come dressed? Well, long sleeve shirts. Was dressed somewhat warmly for the season, appropriately warm for the season, and wore long pants. That's, I think, pretty essential. And I also, all my pants were actually military BDUs, okay? So that was actually a very appropriate type of dress. Not everybody dressed that way. Some people were in more street clothes, and that worked out okay for them. But I felt very comfortable in what I was wearing. It allowed me to carry boxes of ammo in my cargo pockets, a camera in the other cargo pocket, gloves, all kinds of things. Everything that I needed, I had on me. I didn't actually have to carry a bag around with me. And that was an added bonus, because I didn't have to worry about where that was being left, who was going to mess with it, what might get stolen by accident, anything like that. So I think that cargo pants, especially BDUs, are a great idea, and I was probably one of maybe 60 to 70% of my class that were wearing those kinds of pants, cargo pants and BDUs. Most people did wear that kind of clothing. And so I didn't feel out of place at all. And you won't feel out of place if you wear those kinds of clothes. In your hotel room, while you're walking around your hotel, you might feel a little out of place. You might feel kind of funny wearing military BDUs, camo and stuff. But once you get to front sight, you'll fit right in. And the clothing will be appropriate. In fact, all the instructors wear black BDU pants as part of their uniforms, as well as black boots. That's the other thing. Boots are very appropriate. You're going to be walking around in gravel all the time. There's a little bit of pavement there, but on the training ranges, you will be stepping around in gravel, okay, kicking rocks around and stuff. So good shoes, good tough shoes are a great idea. And I wore these Timberland Flumes. They were very comfortable. They are still very comfortable from lots of hiking. I put many, many miles on these boots, hiking and backpacking. And they were more than appropriate for use at front sight. You've got to have a hat. Any kind of ball cap will do, but you've got to have a hat. Because brass, and this is just for safety reasons, brass coming from the person who's standing 3 feet to your left and or to your right is going to fly up and land on your head and on your hat. And if you don't have something covering your eye protection, okay, in my case, actually prescription glasses, if you don't have something over the top of your eye protection, that brass will find its way down inside your eye protection and maybe cause some permanent damage. So you must bring a hat of some kind. And there were a number of people who did not bring any kind of hat. They were assigned hats. Front Sight had these bright orange hats that they made everybody wear who didn't bring a hat. Those people felt pretty dumb walking around with those big orange hats. So bring a ball cap. Whether it's a ball cap or some other sort of wide-brimmed hat, you've got to have a hat on. You've got to have electronic hearing protection. And that's simply because they need you to be able to hear them giving you instruction, but you also need to be obviously protected from the gunshot sounds. So electronic hearing protection allows that to happen. You know, you're not blocking all the sound out, you're just blocking out the sound that's harmful. Okay, so you've got to have electronic hearing protection. Gloves. I brought gloves, and they were actually pretty useful, and I wore them maybe half the time. I tried to take them off for actual shooting drills because defensive shooting, you know, I don't walk around all day with gloves on, so I wanted to do my actual defensive shooting drills with no gloves on, and that made sense. But I did wear them a lot of the rest of the time for protection from the sun, protection from the cold. It was fairly cold while I was there, and also to just protect my hands from doing all that reloading. Did a whole lot of reloading there. Okay, you're doing all your reloading. Do not bring reloaded ammunition. Okay, you've got to bring factory fresh ammunition. About 600 rounds, and that was accurate. Okay, I actually had a little bit left over, probably 80 rounds left over. Even so, I would say bring exactly what they tell you to bring. In closing, Front Sight is an excellent training center. You should go. If you can possibly get yourself there, you should go. I'm the Late Boy Scout. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the post-log of my vlog series, defining and describing my Front Sight experience. Thank you all for watching. See you on the next one.